How long is it gonna be?
Like about an hour. It's okay. I can edit it. But, yeah. Yeah.
Get everything you need?
I think so.
Right. Did you get internet access?
I did, but it wasn't connected.
Not yet.
If you have time for it, maybe you can help me. If not,
We did
we
run
can
it
edit
once,
it. Okay.
Yeah.
and we're gonna do it more. Let me know. We just gotta get. So where, so you ready for us? You know, the first week, right? Yeah. Okay, cross.
Well, you're
Yeah,
there.
one block. I don't think I have it. Okay. So a couple blocks down the big road, take that back towards the river. You run into a dead end cul-de-sac. We're the last. So we have to, no traffic.
Is everybody here who wants to be here? I guess so. All right, well, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And welcome. Good afternoon. Well, I guess it's not quite afternoon, but we're getting there. You can hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. I see some people in there. Okay. Well, we're going to get started. So, I think I know most of you here, but there's some people I don't know, but I've seen before. My name is Lisa Breezy, and if you know my dad, Alan, he's obviously a member here at Unity, and I've spoken here before a few years ago. And it's a real honor and pleasure to be here again, and especially after the circumstances that I've been through, it feels like it's a little extra special to be here today. I feel like I'm a little bit of a miracle, except that I don't totally believe in miracles, and the reason why I don't believe in miracles is because I believe that there's a divine order to things, and as humans, we are kind of taught to be limited in our thinking and our believing. And I think what we label to be miracles are actually what is meant to be. So, but we'll just say that I'm a miracle. I feel like a miracle. I feel quite humbled after what I've been through in just a short time. And, you know, I've always been one that if I'm going to experience something, and if it has taught me something, I always feel called to share, because I think in sharing we get to heal each other. And so even though I feel like I'm still in process, and I will be in this journey for the rest of my life probably, I mean obviously, I felt called to share at this time what my experience has been, because I feel like it can be a message of hope and inspiration for all of us, and the power that our body has within us and in every cell of our being. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, especially during a busy holiday season, to be here and to share with me. It really means a lot. So today, when I was thinking of what would I call this, this is what I came up with. From dis-ease to ease, a journey of healing the body, mind, heart, and soul through love. And I'm going to share what I mean by all of that. Today I want to share my story with you, as I said, because my belief is in sharing my story is that it can give hope and promote healing on all levels for all of us, because we're all connected. We're all one. So I'll talk about the miracle that is our body, my story leading up to my diagnosis, my story since the moment of my diagnosis, what I've learned about cancer, and the Western medicine approach to treatment versus alternative therapies, natural therapies. My healing journey, my perspective on healing, and the modalities I have used. At the end, we'll do a Bless My Body meditation, which is a powerful meditation that I have been doing every day since my diagnosis, and I would love to share it with you at the end. And then if we have some time, or I'll hang out if you you're all good with that. Yeah? Like I say, it's really sweet and touching to see you all here. Thank you. And again, thank you for Unity for having me. So let's get right to it, all right? Let's see, so this is where I was in June of this year. That picture on your left, there is at a 15,000-foot pass in Peruvian Andes on our way to Machu Picchu. And those of you who know me, I'm an exercise physiologist, wellness coach, and I have a business called State of the Heart Fitness. And one of the things that I have done with my clients, my people, is I've taken them to Peru for a body, mind, spirit journey of a lifetime. Now there's a few of you in here who have been on that trip with me, and I've done it 3 times now. My dad and Monique came in 2010. There they are. And I will never forget, that was the first time that I met Monique. And my memory of Monique on that trip, Monique, raise your hand, was hearing her say to my dad numerous times over the mountain passes, "Alan, what on earth made us sign up for this? Who thought this was a good idea?" And now if you talk to Monique, it's probably one of the best experiences she ever had, right? Maybe. But yes, that question was asked a few times. I also have Anya, who is here with me at that mountain peak, or that pass. Yes, and I have Mike Eggerman, who is with us in 2010 as well. Yes, so we know what it's like to go up those mountain passes. There's not much air up there. But, so that's where I was in June of 2019. Life was good, you can see. And then just 2 short months later, that's where I was, barely able to walk. IV fluids interjected into my veins. You can see me holding onto my dad's arm, one little step at a time. Painful step at a time. After my complete hysterectomy. I was diagnosed on August 8th with stage 2 ovarian cancer. And so before we go there though, I want to explain how I got from the top of those mountains to the hospital and how I got here. So before I go into that, I just want to take a moment to talk about something that I've been teaching to my clients for years already. And it's the amazing miracle that is our body. Do we all realize how miraculous our body is? Do we take a moment every day to really appreciate that? What's happening with the trillions, literally trillions of cells that we have in our body that are, on an average day, are just doing everything they need to be doing. The liver cells are doing the liver things that they do. The heart cells are doing the heart things that they need to do. The cells in our eyes are focusing, allowing us to see this beautiful planet. Our ears, everything. There are cells that are working in harmony all the time, in every moment, that allows me to even stand up here. So my brain is regulating my balance. It's sending signals to my muscles so that I can stand. It's regulating my digestion. It's regulating our heartbeat, our body temperature, everything. And how many of us take that for granted? Like everybody, right? Exactly. Until we don't have it, right? So this is what I've always taught about the body. Our body is a miracle. It is the most divine thing in the whole entire universe. It is the universe. If you've studied the body, you go deep. It is as vast as the universe. It is our friend. It is our messenger, the truth teller, the home to our soul, and our stage to shine our light to the world. Now let me tell you, I always say that our body is our friend, but we don't often see it that way. And as a matter of fact, we often don't even pay attention to it, because again, we just take it for granted. It's carrying us through our daily life. But it's our friend, because it's here to support us in whatever we do. And it's incredibly resilient. And even though we may use it and abuse it, it continues to work for us. until we pushed a little too far and it says, wait a minute here, we gotta talk. It's our messenger. I always have told my clients, you know, our body will give us signs when we're out of balance. Our body's natural state of being is one of health and well-being. It's one of balance. If we're not experiencing that, somewhere along the line in our body, mind, or spirit, we have got out of alignment. We have gotten out of balance with ourselves. So our body will kindly, at first, give us little taps on the shoulders. Hey, my blood pressure's a little high. Something might be going on. Hey, I have a little pain in my back. Something's going on. Hey, I have whatever it might be, right? And usually what do? We just like push through it. We ignore it, right? But those taps get a little bit louder and a little bit louder until whatever it might be, it's like the body stops us in our tracks and says, hey, listen here. I need you to listen, because how we're going about things, we got to change it. Otherwise, I'm gonna take you down, and I hate to take you down, but I gotta reboot myself. So, our body lets us know it's our messenger. It's also a vicious truth teller. I always say that our mind can tell us a bunch of BS stories about ourselves, about each other, about the world, but our body will never, ever, ever lie to us, right? It will never lie. When you walk into a room and you feel the energy of a person and your body feels, oh, I'm gravitating to that person, or, ooh, there's an energy there, that's your body telling you something, okay? Again, if we have a little high blood pressure, if our blood sugar is a little out of control, that's our body telling us something. It's telling us the truth, okay? It's not BSing us, but our head, we can ignore, we can justify various things and make ourselves believe whatever we want to believe, but that isn't necessarily what the truth is. But your body will always tell you the truth. It's the home to our soul. I mean, we are here on this planet because of this body. Without our body, would we all agree that our soul has no home? So it's the home to our soul, and it's the stage to shine our light on the world. Now, no matter what you do for a living, or if you're a parent, whatever it is, in order to be the best at what you are, who you are, we have to take care of our body, because our body is our stage to shine our light. Would you all agree that if we're not feeling well, or we're under the weather, or we're sick with something, we're not our best self? Or if we're out of balance, we're exhausted, we're fatigued, we're not our best self. But oftentimes what we do in our society is we sacrifice ourselves and our body to take care of everyone and everything else. Do you all agree? Yeah. And so what I always teach my clients is, how many of you have flown on an airplane before? Most of you. What do they tell you when you're getting ready to take off about the oxygen mask?
Take care of yourself first.
Exactly. And why is that?
Because otherwise, everything else will go to shit.
Put it mildly.
Truth teller, right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if we're passed out on the floor, we're not going to be helping anybody else on that plane, correct? So this is one of the things of me teaching my clients through the years, is that even though we may justify in our minds why it's better to take care of everyone else, we think it's, I don't know what we think, but we think that it's noble to do that. But the truth is if we don't take care of this first, ourselves, our body, mind, spirit, we aren't the best that we can be.
Do you also have a lecture on codependency?
I might. We can talk after. All right, because that's part of it, right? So, what I want you to recognize is what a miracle your body is. Look at it as your friend. Look at it as a messenger to tell you what's going on inside. And listen to it, because it's telling you the truth. It's the only entity that will tell you the absolute truth in all moments. And we want you, we're here to shine our light into the world. Whatever that light, however great or small, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But we can only do that when we are well in our body. So, this was basically my life before cancer. And for those of you who know me, I'm fairly active. Obviously, I have a fitness business. State of the Heart Fitness is about fitness for the heart, mind, body, and soul. It's not just physical fitness, because the The mind, the emotions, the spirituality is all related. It's all interconnected. So, I was a runner, I was a, cyclist, I taught spinning classes. There's a picture of me on my horse, who has since passed away, but that was my life, okay? But then it became this in August. And I can't tell you what a shock it was when, it started. I was here in July. My mom and dad were playing in their band. It was a reunion in July. And I was out at the lake and swimming and all of that, jet skiing, having a blast. And 2 weeks later, I was back in California. And I started to feel a little stuff in my abdomen, and I just thought I was having some digestive issues. So I talked to my friends who are dietitians and, talked to maybe there's something that I'm eating or not, need to eliminate from my diet. Well, I did that for a few days and that wasn't helping. And then when I was running, after I would run, the next day I would feel this soreness in a muscle just on my left side. And so that told me, because of my understanding of the body and biomechanics, that I'm off balance somehow. I bet my hips are off balance. So I went to my chiropractor, Alice, who's amazing. And she was like, whoa, your hips are, one's rotated forward, one's backward, and she says, and your whole torso is torqued. So she adjusted me, but that didn't seem to help when normally it would. And then my abdomen, this was over a course of like 2 to 3 weeks, my abdomen started to swell. And that's when I was like, And I remember one night laying in bed at 3 in the morning, so uncomfortable, and my abdomen was just out to here. And I just thought, oh my gosh, do I take myself to the ER now, or do I wait until the morning and call my doctor? So I just said, it's a few more hours till morning, just wait. And so luckily my doctor was able to get me in at 9:30 that morning, and all my vital signs were fine. But she says, let's just do a CT scan, just to, eliminate anything. Well, rewind about a week before, one of my dear friends, her name is Riley, she does this energy healing work called bioenergy healing. She started working on me every day. And when I was I had a friend driving me to the CT scan at UCLA Medical Center in West LA, and Riley called me and she says, I just want you to know, Lisa, that no matter what it is, whether it's diarrhea or cancer, it's all healable. And I was like, okay, great, thanks, but why is she saying cancer? Anyway, so, okay, words of wisdom, and plus I know the body can heal. I've always taught that, I believe that. Long story short, 2 days later, I got the call from my doctor, and she said, so Lisa, we got the scan back, and they found a fairly large mass in the left ovary. And she says, I need you to call the oncologist right now. No words for that moment, ever. I mean, unless you've probably been there, and I know there's some people in here who have gone through that. There is no words that can explain what that feeling was. And then she sent me the actual results, or the radiologist's comments. And it was much worse than what she told me. There were spots all over my abdomen, and the last phrase that almost sent me over the edge was likely metastatic. I didn't expect to have this emotion right now, but you could feel the depth, because it just I couldn't get it in my head. Like, this isn't me. For 50 years of my life, I've been active, I've been healthy. And needless to say, I called my mom and dad, and I literally just wailed on the phone and said, I am not going to die. This is not my fate. I have too much to do in this life. I have way too many places in the world to travel to yet. This is not where I'm going. I just want you to know. Whatever happened after that was, I literally describe it as though some aliens literally plucked me out of my life and put me into another reality that I can't even describe for the next 2 months. Nothing resembled my life before this, nothing. It was oncology appointments, It was CT and PET scans. At one point, they had to drain the fluid from my abdomen. I was diagnosed on August 8th. I was scheduled for a complete hysterectomy on August 22nd. And in the meantime, they needed to drain the fluid in my lungs because it was collapsing my lung. I was having a hard time breathing. So I had to get that drained. 3 pounds of fluid was taken from my abdomen, 1.5 liters. Now, there are a lot of miracles in this story. And I started off by saying, I don't necessarily believe in miracles, but for our intents and purposes, I will say miracles. One of the first miracles was when they tested that fluid, it tested negative for any abnormal cancer cells. And I'm going to tell you why I think that might have been a little bit later. Do you like that teaser? So that was one of the first miracles. When I sat down with the surgeon before my surgery, she went through all the possible scenarios. And I have to say, first and foremost, that I have the best friends on the planet. I have the best family, I have the best friends. The support was out of this world. And every oncology appointment, every procedure that I went, I had at least 2 or 3 of my friends with me. And they were like, that first oncology appointment walking in on August 12th, it was like I was surrounded by my warriors. And they were going to protect me in a way that again, it just makes me emotional. Because I'll never forget being in that exam room. And I know the surgeon and her assistant were kind of discussing, well, we got a CT scan, we should probably get a PET scan, but I don't know if her insurance is going to cover it. And all of a sudden, one of my friends just said, what's the holdup here? What are we deciding on? And they were like, well, we don't know if her insurance is going to cover it. They were like, all 3 of them said at the same time, it doesn't matter, just do it, we'll figure it out. I mean, that's the kind of support I had. And anyway, so the PET scan, again, basically lit up like a Christmas tree. And so when they test the fluid in my abdomen and it tests negative, they were very, very puzzled. They couldn't figure it out why. And then, so when she's sitting down and telling me all the things that could possibly happen, with the last one being, if I have to resection your colon, you may have a colostomy. Now again, I'm thinking, okay, Lisa, here's what I'm saying in my mind. Okay, if you have a colostomy, at least you'd still be alive. You could still live, you know. It's not the end of the world. But the thought of that was just, whew, okay. So when I went under for my surgery, I had no idea what I was going to wake up to. I had no idea what my life was going to be like when I woke up. And here's what the doctor said when she came out. She told my mom and dad and my friends who were there, best possible outcome. All we found was the mass on her ovary. And it was large, but they cut me up to here because they had to look at my liver, my heart, everything. And she said it was all clean from what we could see, contrary to what the PET scan had shown a couple weeks before. They tested my lymph nodes. It all came out negative. So 2 weeks later, when I was in the hospital for a week, it was rough, as you can see. But let me just show you a few pictures of that time. That was just before the PET scan, and this beautiful little dog just happened to be there at 6 in the morning. Now, those of you who know I love animals, there he was waiting for me, a little support dog. This is one of my angels, Nurse Lisa Bishop-Smith. She's been a client of mine for years. She actually went on the Peru trip in 2010. And she works for UCLA Medical Center. And when my doctor originally said, you have to call the oncology right now, when I called, they couldn't get me in for at least another 2 weeks. And I called Lisa, and she said, if you know Lisa, she's just straightforward truth teller. That's bullshit. Let me get back to you in an hour. Within an hour, I had an appointment with a surgeon and a medical oncologist the next week. She was amazing. That was surgery day. Obviously, there's my dad, and that's my friend Erin, who flew down from Washington State. We were friends in college, have been friends for 30 years. More of my friend Stacy, there's my mom, there's my friend Jen, Gigi, and Erin. Jen, Stacy, Gigi, part of my amazing support team. That was my team that came with me on the first oncology appointment for like 4 years. And there I was, having my little popsicle. More support. Walking outside for the first time after probably about 5 days. I remember saying to my mom and dad, because I could just see them come and go, and there I was in that hospital room and on that floor, and I said, you know, you guys are so lucky you get to go outside. And that was like, Mom was like, that's it, we're getting you outside today. And there's something about being in the fresh air and sunshine that just, you know, I think I healed a lot in that little walk. Ouch. That was my incision and the staples that were there. And on my last day, when I was being discharged, they happened to have a little therapy pony there. And in my hospital room, so for those of you who know me, I've had a 35-year relationship with my beloved horse, Little Miss. And I brought one of her big canvas pictures that I have, that I put it in my hospital room, so when I was laying in bed, I would look right at her. And so she would kind of, what I felt from her, she's like, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. And UCLA is a teaching hospital, so what does that mean? That like every few hours you got a whole group of students, resident teachers that are coming in and they're all asking questions. Can we see your incision? You know, it was 5:30 in the morning. There's no sleep really in a hospital. I was actually kind of thinking, oh God, I had nothing to do but just lay and heal. Well, I couldn't wait to get out of that hospital after a week. And that was, all my doctors were like, we're so excited to tell you that the therapy pony comes today. It's perfect timing, right before you leave. It only came on Thursdays, and that was the day they were discharging me. And look at a little white horse. Anyway, so 2 weeks after I was out of the hospital, I had my first follow-up. And in the meantime, and I'm going to tell you what I was all doing in the process a little bit later. But they took my cancer tumor marker number. So just to give you an idea, before my surgery, it was what they call, it was up at like 481. Normal range is 0 to 35. They actually said I was quite low relative to people who've been in the thousands. So that was like hopeful, okay? But still, I wanted it at 0 to 35. I don't want it up at 481. So 2 weeks later, after my surgery, it went down to 241, which they would expect because they took the tumor out. And in that appointment, I asked them, because I believe in the body's ability to heal. My feeling was, if I can just get this tumor, I don't want that in there. I was like, if I can just get that out, I believe, because this is what I've been teaching my whole life, and this is what I've been experiencing in little ways, not quite a cancer way, but in little ways, that the body can heal itself. So I said to the doctor with enthusiasm, because let me tell you, after I was diagnosed, I was researching everything about cancer, everything. Changed my diet to a plant-based diet. I mean, I had meditated before, but I was serious about my meditation. I was doing energy healing, I was doing acupuncture. I mean, I was doing the emotional and spiritual work. I'm going to talk more about all of that. But I was determined that I'm taking my health in my own hands. I believe my body can heal. So, here I come into, my first appointment after being out of the hospital. And I'm all excited and enthusiastic because I feel like I've been making progress. It's just an intuitive feeling. I feel like my body has been healing. And I remember asking the medical oncologist who they wanted to start me on chemo, like ASAP. They wanted me to heal a little bit from my surgery, but they wanted to get me into chemo right away. And I said to them, I believe the body can heal. So is it possible that maybe we could put chemo on for 2 months and see what I could do in that time? Is that a fair question? And then if nothing happens, then, we could think about doing chemo. And I'll never forget the doctor's response. She smiled at me and she said, that is a fair question with an unfair answer. The answer is no. And I remember just being Really? But why not? And well, because, you know, now the disease is microscopic and now we're dealing with the cells that we can't see. And we got to get those out as soon as possible. Now, okay, so in my research, what I have found is there's a book called Radical Remission. People who have survived cancer against all odds. And the 9 kind of key factors that all of these people that were studied have in common. One of them was they took their health into their own hands. But in this book, I had to laugh because this woman who wrote this book has done research in cancer centers all over. And she said, it is known that there are 2 types of patients. There's the good patients, and then there's the annoying ones. Do you know which one I was? I was the annoying one. Why? Because I was asking questions. The good ones, in their minds, are the ones who just do whatever they tell them to do, the doctors tell them to do. I was the annoying one, apparently, because I had come in with my research and I was educating them about the emotional connection with cancer and the mind connection to cancer, and they were like, maybe there's a connection. We see that a lot, but maybe we'll start doing some research on that. You know, I'm thinking, start doing research. There's a ton of research out there already. You guys are looking, you know, just with your myopic glasses on. Anyway, they didn't talk to me about nutrition or diet. Now, let's just think about chemo for a second. What does chemo do? It destroys cancer cells, maybe.
Also, it'll cause another tumor within 8 years.
The stats on chemo aren't great. Let's just say that. But it not only destroys cancer cells, it also destroys everything. Your immune system, everything. Now to me, again, I'm a physiologist. I study the body. I'm like, okay, if all of us produce cancer cells normally and our immune system takes care of it, there was a depressed immunity in me, and I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to tell you more about why that happened. Anyway, so that was my suggestion. Can we wait 2 months? And they said, absolutely not. So, interestingly enough, another blessing in disguise, another miracle happened that I didn't know at the time, but now looking back, I did. I got an infection, a staph infection in my incision. And they said, well, we can't start you on chemo when you have an infection. Okay, I was kind of like, darn. Anyway, but my infection got worse, it didn't get better. And there was this spot that was not healing. And when they took the staples out on my last day in the hospital, there were 2 staples right in that spot that they were tugging and pulling on, they couldn't get out. So I said to them, do you think maybe because they'd had inner sutures that are dissolvable, as well as the obvious staples. I said, do you think that there's possibly an inner suture that might be causing that? Oh, no. Okay. Anyway, my infection continued to get worse and worse and worse over the next couple of weeks. At this point in time, they're like wanting to start me on chemo regardless. And I had to say, no. This is my body, this is my health. I am not starting something that's going to depress my immune system when my body is already fighting an infection. I kept saying to them, do you think that there might be something bothering a suture? No, it wouldn't be that. I finally got sick of that answer and I went to a wound care specialist, a plastic surgeon, and within 30 seconds he's like, here's your problem. You have an inner suture that needs to come out. And he pulled it out. He says, this is your problem. He says, you would have never healed with this in. But then what ended up happening, I got another one that started festering. And my abdomen just got inflamed. And the first week in October, here I was, 6 weeks out from my surgery, I should have been healed. And I could hardly walk. The first week in October, the infection was so bad that all I could do was lay in bed. And I just remember being like, feeling so claustrophobic and vulnerable, like I couldn't, how did I get here? And what was the facing of fear constantly of cancer and the fate and all of this. I mean, talk about facing death in the eye every single day, every moment. It was the darkest night of my soul by far. I mean, no question about it. And again, I had the support system of my friends and my family. Anyway, in the meantime, while this was happening, I took it upon myself to take my own cancer tumor marker test. And I could go to a lab, a reputable lab, and get my cancer markers tested every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks after surgery, it was at 241. I took it upon myself 2 weeks later, this was like the third week in September, to take my cancer tumor marker number, and it was down to 102. We're moving in the right direction. 2 weeks later, I took it again. It went down to 56. Going to that 35, I told Mom, she's like, what's the number we need? And I said, well, at least 35. Okay, I'm visualizing 35. I said, I'm visualizing 35. She had all her friends visualizing 35. October 15th, it was down to 35. In the meantime, and as of November 25th, it was 12.
Oh my gosh.
No chemo. But in October, after I dodged my surgeon and my medical oncologist in UCLA and in LA, I got a second opinion from an oncologist up in Ventura, which is an hour north where my friend lived. And he was a little bit more open-minded. He said he would never start a patient on chemo with an infection like that, and he was very disturbed at what it looked like. And I said to him, I said, so, well, tell me, if I was to do chemo, what are the things that you're going to be looking at to measure if it's successful or not, like that it's working? And what did he say?
Markers.
A low cancer tumor marker, CA-125 in my case, and a fairly clear CT scan. Well, I had a CT scan on October 2nd because of my incision, and they wanted to see if there was anything that was, anything else in there. He said, so I said, what did they say on that CT scan? And he said, well, there's 2 spots that we're suspicious of. I said, but did they show up as cancer? And he said, no. So I'm thinking, so my cancer tumor marker is down, my CT scan is clear, and those are the 2 things that you would be testing to see if it's working or not. Why would I be doing chemo when I'm already at the outcome that you would be trying to achieve? And he said,
It makes money.
yes, it does. He said, well, my job is to educate my patients and for them to make decisions that work with their philosophy and their goals. And he said, so he couldn't tell me. And I said, but what would you suggest? And he said, well, I would still have you do chemo. And what I've discovered and what my theory is that of course he would, because it's a liability issue if they ever said you don't have to do it. Right?
Right. Standard of care.
Standard of care. So, yeah. And all of my blood work, normal. So, let's move on. There's my mom and dad. What I know and what I have learned about cancer in this process. So I said earlier, our body produces cancer cells all the time, but a healthy immune system takes care of it, keeps it in check, okay? Cancer cells use anaerobic metabolism. So we've heard of aerobic metabolism, we've heard of anaerobic. Anaerobic means without oxygen, aerobic means with oxygen. So when the cells are thriving on anaerobic metabolism, they're utilizing sugar. If I was to say one thing, take all the sugar out of your diet. It does nothing but destroy your body on all levels, but that's another story. Cancer cells don't do well with oxygen, aerobic metabolism. Cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment, okay? So, alkaline environment, so we have alkaline versus acidic, and our body has a pH of either somewhere in between one end or the other. That cancer can't survive alkaline environment, if your body is, your pH is more alkaline, and that's more plant-based. So dairy and meat bring you more into an acidic pH, where cancer can thrive.
How about white flour?
White flour is basically sugar. Yeah, converts to sugar. There's a strong correlation between cancer and chronically stressful and traumatic life events. And our genes don't necessarily determine cancer one way or another, and they'll let you believe that it does. They tested me, they genetically tested me for the BRCA gene and all the cancer-causing genes. I tested negative. They couldn't figure out why, and it didn't make any sense. She says, I don't know why you got ovarian cancer. And I said, because it's not necessarily the genes, it's what was going on before, and I can tell you what was going on before, and I will share what was going on before. This is my theory. But my point is that our genes are not necessarily, we may have certain genes, but what determines whether they switch on or off is our thoughts, our beliefs, and our lifestyle. So, cancer, like every other disease or physical ailment, has a message and a gift for us, but only if we're willing to listen to it and act on it. So now I'm going to go into why I believe I'm here, standing here, technically cancer-free today. But this is the thing that I heard from probably every single person when they heard that I had a diagnosis. But Lisa, you're the healthiest person I know. How did you, of all people, get cancer? And from the surface, you would say, yeah, that's a good question. Even I asked that at first. But I also know there's more to the story than that. It's not just how it appears. So here's my theory. Are you all waiting? I may have looked healthy on the outside, and for the average person I was, me teaching one of my spinning classes. But upon deeper reflection and looking back, there were signs. Remember I told you that the body always tells you the truth and gives you signs? Taps your shoulder. So, a year ago, I had shingles, which is depressed immunity. Back in March, when I had my annual exam, I had a high A1C, pre-diabetic A1C. And what that is, the A1C is your average blood sugar over time, over a few months. Me being pre-diabetic, again, I'm exercising all the time, I eat fairly healthy, like this just didn't make sense to me. Sign, what did we talk about? Cancer thrives on sugar. So there were signs that I was out of balance. A little over a year ago, I had shingles, like I said. Back in March, I had the pre-diabetic A1C, and in the last 2.5 years, this is what I believe is the big one. I had a lot of loss and change. Those of you who know me, I do a lot of emotional and spiritual work. How many of you have heard of Louise Hay? She wrote an incredible book called You Can Heal Your Life. She healed herself from uterine cancer and wrote a book about the emotional connection to diseases and physical ailments. And immediately when I was diagnosed, I looked up Louise Hay, and this is what it said. Probable cause, deep hurt, long-standing resentment, deep secret or grief eating away at the self, carrying hatreds, what's the use, new thought pattern, I lovingly forgive and release all the past. I choose to fill my world with joy. I love and approve of myself. That resonated with me. Oh, sorry. And here's why. On May 29th, 2017, I experienced the greatest loss of my life. Those of you know, I had a horse, Little Miss. I've mentioned her a few times. I had her for 35 years. She lived to 36. So I got her when I was 13. This special being carried me physically and spiritually through my entire life. She saw me through my tumultuous high school years, graduation, moving to California. She came out to California with me. She saw me go to college. She saw me, go through the ups and downs of life. She saw me start my own business in 2001. And everybody in my life knew, oh gosh, when she was approaching 30, that when is that time going to come? Average horses live, late 20s, early 30s. She lived to 36. And that was me saying goodbye to her on that day. was me giving her the biggest hug I've ever given her. Now, that started what was a cascade of losses. That was the biggest one. That shook my world because, she was my rock from the time I was 13. But after that, it was just one thing after another. I lost little Mrs. Companion, Josh. It was the first time in 45 years of my life that I didn't have a horse. That's a long time of being in a certain way of being, right? I lost the property where I had kept Miss for 27 years in California. It wasn't my property, but it was owned by some people, and the circumstances were such that a year later, I lost that. That was like my other home in California. I live in Santa Monica, but the property was 2 hours north where my mom lives in San Ynez. I lost one of my long-standing clients who was like a father figure to me on New Year's Eve. He died suddenly of a heart attack in Grand Central Station in New York. I thought, if Richard was going to go out, of course he'd go out at Grand Central Station, Anyway, I had him for 14 years, 2 times a week, and that was a huge shock. He had just texted me 2 days before saying, I can't wait to get back and schedule me on such and such a day, and then I get a call from his wife. And then I lost the place in the community where I had my business, State of the Heart Fitness, in February of this year. I was there for 17 years. So my business was located in a hotel in Santa Monica, right on the beach, and was there for 17 years, had a community of clients. And in January 15th, they gave me notice that they were shutting down the fitness center, and that was it. So I lost my business. So there were a few losses, and here's what we do. We do the best we can. And for me, I put on my armor and, I trudged through. But what I was feeling inside was this deep, deep despair. And just before my diagnosis, I remember going for a walk and there was this thought that I hadn't ever had. And it was like, what's the point? Where am I going? I've done so much. Like, what's the use? What's the point? And not that I was suicidal, but there was a part of me that was, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. Oh, and I think I might have forgot that. One of my best friends moved to Florida and me, just suddenly. So it was just like one thing after another. And so looking back, the stress and the emotional stress and the grief and the loss got the best of me. And there were the signs. There was the depressed immunity already a year ago with shingles. My blood sugar was not being balanced. My body wasn't in balance anymore. So here's been my approach to healing. As I said, I believe that the body, if we allow it to do what it does, if we can get ourselves out of the way, every cell in our body has the divine intelligence. It knows how to heal. It does. We just have to get the interference out of the way, which is often ourselves. So to take my health and healing into my own hands, to change my diet to an anti-cancer diet, and to build my immune system. Because think about it, okay, wouldn't this make more sense? Chemo destroys your immune system and destroys other parts of your body. Wouldn't it make sense to build your immune system back up so that the body can take care of cancer cells by itself, right? I mean, it makes sense to me. I just like to think logically. Do the emotional and spiritual work, get to the root cause of the energy and the emotional stuckness. Keep my mind out of fear and only that which brings me hope and joy. Now, this one was the most challenging by far because it was so easy. And to this day, I can slip into fear and go, what if? And my acupuncturist, I'm going to show you a picture of him in just a second. He has been my lighthouse in the fog this whole time from day one, and he just said, you have to keep your mind out of fear, because when we're in fear, we are in stress, and when the body's in stress, it's breaking down. It can't heal. So whatever you do, meditate, whatever, focus on something that brings you joy, then your body can heal. You'll find peace. So that was my biggest practice. And get out of the way and let the body do what it knows how to do, which is heal. So I started with the bioenergy healing, like I told you, my friend Riley. When I started to feel the distress in my abdomen, she's like, let me do some energy healing on you. Now, when I tell you that that fluid tested abnormal, I mean, no abnormal cells, negative, I can only explain it as I had changed my diet immediately. I started doing the emotional and spiritual work. I started doing bioenergy healing. I started doing acupuncture. My whole intention was to help whatever is in the way of healing, to get it out of the way. And so I believe that this was already taking effect. There's no other explanation. My doctors can't explain why that was all they saw when they went into that hysterectomy. Plant-based diet and supplementation. Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, let food be thy medicine. It is our medicine. It is, we are what we eat. We hear that all the time. You go, yeah. No, it is. It's the absolute truth. Think of plants, they're live, they're fresh, they're full of nutrients, okay? They're life-giving. These are the top 6 evidence-based cancer-fighting foods which have been a huge staple in my life. Green tea, turmeric, broccoli, mushrooms, onions, and black pepper. 6 of the most anti-cancer foods you can eat, and many others, but those are the top. I didn't hire, that sounds weird. I consulted with this wonderful human being, Dr. Heidi Lucas, who is a naturopathic oncologist. She was all about the nutrition. Now, when I talked to the regular medical oncologist, they had no clue about nutrition. None. Do you know that the average doctor has maybe a semester of nutrition in their entire schooling? They generally know nothing about
Like
nutrition.
1 day.
Or 1 day. But your nutrition, your vitamins and your minerals are the building blocks of your body. So to me, that would be an obvious thing that we need to understand. So she was amazing and still is. She is the one that I continue to consult with. But she put me on various supplements, had me on a very specific diet. Still does. I'm following it now. I did Reiki with my friend Kathleen, another form of energy healing. This was the day after my surgery. She's like, Lisa, can I do Reiki on you? I'm yours. There I am on the acupuncture table, and I want to introduce you to one of the most amazing human beings on the planet. It is because of him that he gave me the hope. He was that calm presence. He said from day one, when I went in before my surgery, he said, he was so calm, and he just said, Lisa, all disease is dis-ease in the body. And he says, and it's usually because of stuck emotions. And he said, tell me what your life has been like in the last few years. I said, well, let me tell you, it's been a lot of loss. And he just calmly said, so what I'm feeling is that, your little miss, you keep looking back, and you're yearning for her. He says, but life is moving forward. And he says, and we just change forms. We die, but we don't die. He says, she's still with you. And of course she is, because she sent me signs every single day to say, I'm here. He said, but what you're doing is you're still stuck longing for her. What she wants you to do is to come present with her so that you too can move forward in this form. That's what he said. And he says, and if there's any other anger or resentments from your past, it's time to let that go. And he said, and I said, well, but can acupuncture help cure cancer? He says, it's all about the energy. It's all about the flow and getting the flow back into your body again. And he says it can heal anything. You can heal anything. Your body can heal it. So he has been and he was always like, well, what if you can get your cancer tumor marker down to 100? Will they put off the chemo then? And I said, no. Anyway, he's been my little angel, one of my biggest angels. So meditation every day. And what I'd like to leave you with at the end here is what I've called the Bless My Body meditation that I'd like to take you through. I found the Cancer Center for Healing in Irvine, California, which is a very progressive center that kind of goes surpasses the barbaric way of treating cancer, the Western medicine way of treating. They believe in all the alternative therapies. They believe in the emotional connection. They believe in the diet, all of that. And when I went to get a third opinion from one of their doctors, they didn't even push chemo. She said, it's an option, but she said, there's many more modalities to do. And she says, but you have to choose what's going to bring you peace. Because again, you're not going to heal if you're not in peace. So it was quite the message. Unfortunately, these modalities aren't covered by insurance. So a friend of mine had set up a GoFundMe page because I haven't been able to work since August. And this has become my full-time job. So one of the things I've been doing is oxygen therapy. So what do we do when we get a cut? You know, we say, well, we need to give it some air, right? Oxygen heals. It promotes tissue healing. So when you go into an oxygen therapy chamber, it's pressurized oxygen, so it literally saturates your body with oxygen. What did we learn earlier? That cancer cells do not do well in an oxygen-rich environment. So that was has been one of my modalities. Vitamin C therapy, one of the most powerful antioxidants there are. And this is actually getting it through IV, so it's a really high dose. And just a few weeks ago, the FDA has banned this form of therapy.
Of course.
Why? I listened and continue to listen to this man. Has anybody heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? He is one of the most powerful thought teachers that I've ever experienced. And he teaches about the power of the mind, taking control of thoughts and emotions. He's the author of several books, You Are the Placebo, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself and Becoming Supernatural. He is a scientist that studies the brain, and he studies meditation and how our thoughts and beliefs actually physiologically change our cells. He has seen people heal themselves from cancer, from all kinds of things, by shifting our thoughts and he's another one that says, you can't stay in fear if you're going to heal. You have to stay in joy. He says we heal by the emotions that we hold. We create our future by the emotions that we hold and carry with us. So it's a moment-to-moment choosing joy over fear, and that has been one of my biggest practices. Easier said than done. And this is Allie. One of my best friends, Jen, lives in Ventura, an hour north. And during this time in September, she said, I want you to come and live with us. And she has a little girl named Allie. And joy and laughter. How can you not be in joy and laughter with somebody, that little girl there? She would come down into my room every morning and give me a hug. And we would talk and play. And I remember one Saturday morning, I said, she came down and I said, no school today. And she says, and no doctor's appointments. I remember Jen had told me that Allie had texted her dad. Her dad was on a bike ride in Oregon for a week while I was there. And Jen saw that Allie had, voice text, what kids can do these days, and she saw that she had sent her dad a text saying that she was helping Lisa. And so Jen asked Allie, she's like, how are you? I saw that you told Daddy that you were helping Lisa. How are you helping Lisa? And she said, by being with her. So precious. She knew. So spending time with her, it was hard not to be in a place of joy. And then affirmation, surrender, and absolute faith. There were many times in the dark nights where I just had to surrender it to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and say, I can't do this, myself. I've always had a very personal connection to God ever since I was a little kid. And sometimes we forget, that there's that help, that we have our spirit guides, that we have, those God there to help us. And so this was a little rock that I saw that a little kid had painted, and I got that. And I remember Allie, that was sitting next to my bed, and she said, Lisa, whose rock is that? And I'm thinking that she's probably wanting it for herself. And I said, she calls little Missy Horse, because she used to ride her when Miss was still around. And I said, It could be yours if you wanted. It was mine. And she says, oh, I thought it was Missy Horse's. And I said, you did? And she says, but what if she didn't believe? And what if she didn't do it? Just interesting how her little mind would think. Anyway, I just had to share that. But positive affirmations, surrender, and faith. So this was one of my affirmations I would say every day. Still do. I'm a miracle. My body is a miracle. I'm alive and well. I love my life. Shine! These are some other quotes that I just wanted to share because they're so important. True healing will always begin with your thoughts. Master your thoughts, and you will master your life. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence our mind, stay out of fear, stay in joy. Whew, and here we go. Sometimes our lives have to be completely shaken up, changed, and rearranged to relocate us to a place where we're meant to be. And if that isn't the truth. I have to say about a month and a half ago, after my abdomen started to heal, and look at this, I can move without any pain or discomfort. It's amazing to me. I remember I was driving in my car, and all of a sudden I just felt this incredible joy and gratitude. And I used to be, when I would talk to little Miss, I would talk, if we have animals, we probably all have this little voice that we talk to. We probably talk in our animal voice. I mean, maybe raise your hands if you have a little animal voice. Okay. So I would used to talk to Miss in this little voice. That's my horse, not like that. But ever since she had passed, I wasn't able to do that. I would get choked up. And here I was driving, and all of a sudden I felt this incredible gratitude, and I started just talking to her in that voice. And I felt nothing but joy, and all of a sudden I felt her like jumping for joy, saying, yay, she's made it to the present, now we can really move forward. Anyway, so we got lots of things to do, write books and all of that kind of stuff. So we must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And I truly believe that cancer is an incredible gift to me. And I thank my cancer because remember the state of mind I was in before? In despair and not really sure. I'm really sure that I want to be here and that I got a lot of things to do. And one of my therapist said to me, she says, leave it to something like cancer to get you really clear if you want to be on this planet, right? And I was like, no kidding. I was like, what's the point? Okay, yes. I mean, don't, I was just kidding. I do want to be here. Did I do that already? Let's see. Healing. My wounds are open, my heart is broken, but the healing has begun. The future is waiting. I have picked up the pieces, and now I will be oneness back to wholeness again. The most powerful relationship you'll ever have is the relationship you have with yourself. We do not heal the past by dwelling there. We heal the past by living fully in the present. The body heals with play, the mind heals with laughter, and the spirit heals with joy. And here's one of my own quotes. Instead of living in fear of when you or your loved ones may die, live your life right now as fully and loudly as you can. Living in fear takes away from the life that you're living right now. Don't waste it. Every moment is a gift. And I've always lived life that way, but now I've taken it to a whole other level. And, one of the things that I experienced in this journey was, of course,